There is a strange moment that almost no one talks about, a moment where money stops feeling like a number and starts feeling like gravity. It's the moment when you realize that earning your first $100,000 feels heavier than earning the next 100,000, heavier emotionally, heavier mentally, heavier in a way that has nothing to do with math. And if you've ever tried to save, invest, or build wealth from zero, you already know this feeling. It feels like walking uphill against wind, doubt, and time itself, like pouring water into a bucket with a crack at the bottom, like working endlessly only to watch progress vanish the moment life intervenes. And yet, there's a quiet truth hidden inside this struggle, because for reasons both psychological and structural, once that first 100,000 is reached, everything begins to change. Not overnight, not magically, but undeniably. So tonight, or today, wherever you are, let this be something you place gently in the background, a calm reflection on why the hardest money you will ever earn is the first money that truly belongs to you. The idea of the first 100,000 didn't come from nowhere. In the early 20th century, Andrew Carnegie famously said that the first $100,000 was the hardest to make. Adjusted for inflation, his version of that milestone would be much higher today. But the insight remains. It's not about the number itself. It's about what changes inside you once that number exists. Because before wealth begins to compound financially, it must compound psychologically. Before money starts working for you, you must first learn how to carry it. The first 100,000 represents something deeper than savings. It represents proof. Proof that you can delay gratification. Proof that you can manage impulses. Proof that your decisions today can shape your future quietly, patiently, and without applause. And proof that you are capable of consistency. But to understand why everything feels so difficult at the beginning, we need to look at how humans experience money when there is very little of it. When you are starting from zero, money behaves differently. It does not feel like a tool. It feels like oxygen. Every dollar has a job, a responsibility, a weight: rent, food, transportation, unexpected problems. There is no margin for error. At this stage, money does not multiply. It disappears. And psychologically, this creates a quiet tension. Because when resources are scarce, the human brain shifts into survival mode. Long-term thinking becomes harder. Risk feels more threatening. Patience feels unnatural. You are not imagining it. This is biology. Your mind becomes focused on the present moment, on relief instead of strategy, on comfort instead of growth. And this is why the early stages of wealth building feel exhausting. You are fighting against both math and instinct. At the beginning, wealth grows linearly. You trade time for money, hours for income, energy for survival. If you stop working, income stops. This creates a dangerous illusion that effort equals progress. But effort alone does not create wealth. Structure does. And until capital exists, structure cannot emerge. This is why saving the first 1,000 feels harder than saving the 10th 1,000. Why investing feels terrifying when losses matter emotionally. Why mistakes feel permanent. Every dollar earned feels fragile. Another reason the first $100,000 feels impossible is because progress is not visible. If you save $500 a month, nothing changes. Your life looks the same. Your stress feels the same. Your options remain limited. From the outside, it feels pointless. But internally, something important is happening. You are training your nervous system to tolerate delay. You are learning to say no without resentment. to choose stability over impulse, to build trust with yourself. This internal work is invisible, but essential, because wealth without self-trust collapses. Early money carries emotional friction. Every decision feels personal. Should I spend this? Should I invest this? What if I need it later? There is fear in every choice. This fear is not weakness. It is awareness without insulation. Because money, in small amounts, has no buffer. Loss feels loud. Gains feel fragile. And so many people quit here. Not because they lack discipline, but because they lack reassurance. They expect motivation, but what they need is patience. Something subtle happens as savings grow. Around a certain threshold, often near the first $100,000, money begins to behave differently. It no longer disappears instantly. It stays. It sits quietly. It accumulates. And most importantly, it starts to generate momentum. Interest becomes noticeable. Returns become meaningful. Volatility feels less threatening. You begin to see that money can earn money, not aggressively, not dramatically, but consistently, and consistency changes everything. Once capital exists, effort multiplies. Money becomes leverage. Your decisions carry weight. Your time gains flexibility. Your mistakes become survivable. You are no longer starting from zero, and psychologically, this creates relief. Not excitement, but calm, a quiet confidence. You stop asking, "Will I survive?" and start asking, "How should I allocate?" This is the real transition, from survival to stewardship, from scarcity to stewardship. What compounds faster than money is identity. When you cross this threshold, you no longer hope you can build wealth. You know you can. That knowledge changes behavior. You take fewer emotional risks. You chase fewer illusions. You stop comparing yourself to noise. You move slower, and paradoxically, grow faster, because you are no longer in a rush. There is another reason everything feels different after the first 100,000. It is not just about money working harder. It is about systems quietly replacing effort. In the beginning, every action is manual. You think about every expense. You calculate every decision. You hesitate before every investment. Your attention is constantly engaged. But once capital accumulates, patterns begin to repeat themselves. Bills become predictable. Savings become automated. Investments follow rules instead of emotions. This is not laziness. This is design. And design reduces friction. The more friction removed from a system, the more energy remains for growth. Money stops needing supervision. It starts needing direction. And direction is far less exhausting than control. Interestingly, many people report feeling calmer before their net worth grows dramatically. This is because financial peace does not require abundance. It requires margin. Margin between income and expenses. Margin between mistakes and consequences. Margin between fear and necessity. The first $100,000 often creates that margin, not because it can solve every problem, but because it gives problems room to breathe. And when problems breathe, they shrink. Stress decreases, not when income spikes, but when dependency softens, when money is no longer needed immediately. One of the strangest effects of early wealth building is how time begins to feel different. When you live paycheck to paycheck, time feels compressed. Every month arrives too fast. Every bill feels urgent. Every decision feels late. But once savings exist, time slows. Weeks feel longer. Decisions feel less rushed. Planning becomes enjoyable instead of stressful. This expanded sense of time is not an illusion. It comes from reduced urgency. And urgency is one of the most expensive emotions a human can carry, because urgency forces poor trade-offs. It exchanges long-term value for short-term relief. Capital removes urgency, and when urgency fades, intelligence has space to operate. Early on, all energy goes toward earning. How can I make more? How can I survive? How can I keep up? But after a certain point, the question changes. It becomes quieter. How should I place this? Allocation replaces acquisition, and allocation is a higher-level problem. It requires patience. It requires perspective. It requires restraint. You begin to see money as something that must be positioned, not chased. And this shift marks the entrance into true wealth building, because wealth is not about how fast money comes in. It's about how carefully it stays. Something else happens quietly after this threshold. Confidence appears. Not the loud kind, not the performative kind, but the internal kind. You stop needing reassurance. You stop checking balances compulsively. You stop reacting emotionally to market noise. You stop feeling threatened by others' success, because your reference point changes. You no longer measure yourself against people. You measure yourself against systems, and systems are calmer than comparisons. Before capital exists, every opportunity feels urgent. Every idea feels like the one. Every chance feels rare. This leads to desperation trades, emotional investments, overconfidence in shortcuts, trust in promises instead of process. But once you have something to protect, urgency dissolves. You can afford to wait, and waiting filters quality. Bad opportunities disappear when patience enters the room, because most financial traps rely on haste. Risk does not disappear, but it becomes contextual. Loss no longer feels existential. Volatility no longer feels personal. You understand that fluctuations are temporary, and structure is permanent. This does not make you reckless, it makes you selective, and selectivity compounds. Perhaps the most valuable thing money begins to buy at this stage is not luxury, it is choice. The ability to say no, the ability to pause, the ability to walk away. Optionality changes behavior. It allows alignment. You stop tolerating situations that drain you. You stop forcing paths that feel wrong. And paradoxically, income often increases as a result, because aligned decisions compound better than forced ones. From the outside, it may seem like things suddenly became easy, like progress accelerated unfairly. But what is unseen is the groundwork, the years of restraint, the months of boredom, the quiet consistency. Compound effects are invisible until they are undeniable, and by the time they show, the hard part is already done. The first $100,000 is not about becoming rich, it is about becoming stable. It is about proving to yourself that you can build something slowly, without panic, without shortcuts, without applause, and once that proof exists, the rest becomes a matter of time, not speed. Time. There is a lesson here that extends beyond money. Most meaningful transformations follow this pattern. The early stages feel unfair, the middle feels quiet, the end feels inevitable. We underestimate the cost of beginnings, and overestimate the speed of outcomes. The first $100,000 teaches you how to wait without certainty, how to act without applause, how to trust a future you cannot yet see. And these lessons remain long after the number changes. Because wealth is not just an accumulation of currency, it is an accumulation of restraint, of perspective, of emotional maturity. The money stays, but the mindset is what carries you forward. So if you are still far from your first $100,000, understand this: the difficulty you feel is not failure, it is initiation. You are learning skills that only the beginning can teach. You are building a foundation that cannot be rushed. And one day, without fanfare, something will shift. Your money will feel lighter, your decisions calmer, your future less fragile. Not because life became easy, but because you became steady. And in that steadiness, wealth finds room to grow. Because in the end, true wealth isn't counted, it's felt. In silence. If you enjoy calm reflections about wealth, patience, and the psychology of money, subscribe to Quiet Money for more thoughtful narratives like this. And if this reflection stayed with you, leave a comment. Sometimes the quiet conversations are the most valuable ones.